The Austin Maxi. The Austin Maxi should have been one of Britain's smartest family cars. When it arrived in 1969, it came equipped with front-wheel drive, 5 doors, a 5-speed gearbox, and an extraordinarily flexible interior. The seats could even be folded completely flat to create a makeshift double bed. For a modest family car of the late 1960s, that was remarkably forward-thinking. Then, drivers tried to change gear. Early Maxis used a cable-operated gear linkage that quickly became notorious for its vague and rubbery feel. Selecting the correct gear was less like operating a mechanical transmission and more like stirring a pot of cold porridge with a wooden spoon. The car's appearance did not help. To save precious development capital, British Leyland forced designers to reuse the passenger doors from the larger Austin 1800. The rest of the Maxi's bodywork then had to be stretched and compromised around those existing panels. The result was an awkward, heavy-set proportion that looked old-fashioned on arrival, despite containing genuinely modern ideas beneath the skin. Furthermore, the new E-Series engine and 5-speed transmission reached showrooms before their mechanical teething problems had been properly resolved. The underlying engineering concept was intelligent, and the spatial packaging was brilliant, but the finished automobile felt as though it had entered mass production 6 months before the engineers had completed their work, and that was only number 7. We are counting down 7 British cars remembered for poor build quality, questionable engineering, confused management, and corporate decisions that made sense only inside a British Leyland boardroom. Some of these automobiles were fundamentally flawed. Others were brilliant ideas ruined by the companies building them. Number 6. The Triumph TR7. Triumph aggressively marketed the TR7 as the shape of things to come. Unfortunately, for thousands of early buyers, that future appeared to consist of engine overheating, electrical failures, industrial strikes, and body panels that rarely lined up. Arriving in 1975 to replace the beloved traditional TR6, Triumph abandoned the classic British roadster formula. In its place, they created a dramatic, wedge-shaped coupe targeted squarely at the American market. There was a specific reason the early cars featured a permanent steel roof. American safety regulators were threatening to ban traditional convertibles due to rollover concerns. British Leyland panicked, engineering their new flagship sports car around safety legislation that ultimately was never passed. Triumph had built a fixed-roof sports car for a regulatory nightmare that never happened. To make matters worse, early production was assigned to the Speak factory in Liverpool, where industrial relations between management and the workforce had collapsed. Production stoppages, labor disputes, and indifferent assembly severely tarnished the car's reputation from day one. Cooling system failures, fragile pop-up headlights, water leaks, and abysmal interior trim quality plagued early owners. On some cars, the shut lines between the bonnet and wings looked less like manufacturing tolerances and more like an optical illusion. Production was eventually rescued and moved to Solihull. Quality steadily improved, and a proper convertible finally joined the range. The TR7 even became the best-selling model in the entire TR lineup. Yet it replaced a legend with something deeply controversial, creating an early reputation for fragility that years of improvements could never fully erase. The shape of things to come ultimately signaled the end of Triumph sports car production. Number 5. The Triumph Stag. On paper, the Triumph Stag was a stroke of genius. It was an elegant, 4-seat, Italian-styled grand tourer featuring a targa top, a luxurious cabin, and a bespoke 3-liter V8 engine. It promised open-air continental cruising without forcing owners to sacrifice comfort, luggage space, or rear seats. It looked, sounded, and felt like a triumph of British design. Then, the temperature gauge began to climb. The Stag's custom-built V8 rapidly developed a terrifying reputation for catastrophic overheating. Its cooling passages were prone to silting up, its long timing chains could stretch and snap without warning, and its aluminum cylinder heads would warp the moment the coolant level dropped. Compounding the engineering flaws was the car's extreme sensitivity to routine maintenance. During the 1970s, many owners and local garages were unaccustomed to the delicate requirements of an all-alloy overhead cam engine. Incorrect coolant mixtures led to internal corrosion, airlocks were introduced during servicing, and minor cooling leaks quickly escalated into ruined engines and eye-watering repair bills. Frustrated by recurring breakdowns, hundreds of owners ripped out the original Triumph V8 and replaced it with the ubiquitous Rover 3.5-liter engine. While this cured the overheating, it sparked a debate that continues to this day. Did the Rover engine save the Stag, or did it strip away the very heart that made the car unique? With modern engineering knowledge, cooling modifications, and proper maintenance, a Stag today can be rendered exceptionally reliable. But buyers in 1970 were not purchasing classic cars supported by decades of specialist knowledge. They were purchasing brand-new luxury cruisers. Triumph promised effortless continent-crossing luxury. Instead, far too many owners became intimately familiar with the hard shoulders of Britain's motorways. Number 4. The Rover 100. The Rover 100 did not start life as a bad car. That was precisely the tragedy. Its underlying structure made its debut in 1980 as the Austin Metro. Compact, fuel-efficient, and brilliantly packaged, the original Metro was an instant national savior that kept British Leyland afloat through a perilous decade. However, Rover continued to sell that exact same structural platform for nearly 20 years. Through the 80s and 90s, the car received mechanical updates, refined interiors, the superb K-Series engine, and eventually a prestigious Rover badge accompanied by wood trim and leather seats. But beneath the refreshed styling remained a chassis designed in the late 1970s. By 1997, global automobile safety had undergone a revolution when the independent Euro NCAP crash testing organization placed a fresh Rover 100 against a solid offset barrier. The results were horrific. Upon impact, the front cabin collapsed like an accordion. The steering column shoved violently into the passenger compartment, the floor pan buckled, and the driver's survival space ceased to exist. The car received a devastating 1-star safety rating. While rival manufacturers had spent the 90s building reinforced safety cells and side impact protection, Rover had simply been unable to afford an all-new replacement. The crash test exposed the car's hidden antiquity to the world overnight. Showroom sales evaporated instantly, production was abruptly halted, and the Rover 100 became a chilling public monument to the dangers of extending a vehicle's lifespan far beyond its engineering limits. Number 3. The Rover City Rover. By 2003, the MG Rover Group was desperately running out of money, time, and models. The company urgently needed a modern city car to fill the void beneath the aging Rover 25, but lacked the capital to design one from scratch. The executive solution was simple. Import the Indica from Indian manufacturer Tata, apply minor suspension tweaks, affix classic Rover longship badges to the grille, and sell it in British showrooms as the City Rover. In theory, badge engineering an existing platform was standard industry practice. The disaster lay in how MG Rover priced and positioned the vehicle. Rather than selling the car as an honest, low-cost budget vehicle, management attempted to market it as a premium British hatchback, but the interior was dominated by cheap, hard plastics, engine refinement was dismal, and the road manners lagged far behind European competitors. Buyers were expected to pay a luxury premium purely for a plastic badge attached to a budget floor pan. Aware of the car's glaring shortcomings, Rover management famously refused to let major motoring publications test the vehicle prior to its public launch. When journalists finally got their hands on the City Rover, the reviews were merciless. The City Rover did not single-handedly destroy MG Rover. The company was already teetering on the edge of financial collapse. But when the business finally went into administration in 2005, the City Rover stood as the ultimate symbol of its decline, a once proud marquee forced to disguise an imported budget car in a desperate attempt to stay alive. Number 2. The Morris Marina. The Morris Marina was born out of absolute panic. By 1968, Ford was utterly dominating the lucrative fleet and company car markets with the Escort and the Cortina. British Leyland offered sophisticated, complex front-wheel drive cars, but lacked a simple, cheap, rear-wheel drive fleet vehicle that corporate buyers actually wanted. To counter Ford, British Leyland developed the Marina in record time on a shoestring budget. Designers grabbed whatever was sitting on the factory shelves. The engines, gearboxes, and rear axles were recycled from existing inventory. Shockingly, parts of the front suspension were derived directly from the Morris Minor, a car that had been engineered in 1948. When launched in 1971, the Marina was instantly outdated, yet commercially it worked. Over 1 million Marinas were sold across a decade of production. It was cheap to buy, remarkably simple to repair, and fleet managers bought them by the thousands. The crime of the Marina was not its existence, but its lifespan. It was explicitly designed as a quick 3-year emergency stopgap until a proper modern replacement could be built. Instead, crippled by financial chaos, British Leyland kept the Marina in production for 9 years before giving it a mild restyle, renaming it the Morris Itoll, and continuing to sell it until 1984. While European rivals introduced sophisticated hatchbacks, refined suspensions, and fuel injection, British Leyland spent 13 years polishing an emergency stopgap equipped with post-war suspension technology. The Marina proved that a manufacturer could become so organizational trapped that it could never escape its own temporary fixes. Number 1. The Austin Allegro. The Austin Allegro did not single-handedly ruin the British motor industry, but it became the enduring symbol for everything that went wrong. Launched in 1973 to replace the immensely popular Austin 1100 series, the Allegro was meant to be a technological tour de force. Stylist Harris Mann originally penned a sharp, low-slung aerodynamic concept. Then corporate compromise stepped in. The production line required the car to use tall, bulky heating units and oversized engines. To accommodate them, the bonnet had to be raised, the roof lifted, and the sharp lines smoothed out. Then came the infamous Quartic steering wheel. Intended to offer more thigh clearance, the flattened, squarish wheel became a national laughingstock and was hastily abandoned. Practicality suffered further because British Leyland executives feared the Allegro would steal sales from their own Austin Maxi. Consequently, despite having the exact profile of a practical hatchback, the Allegro was built with a conventional, restrictive saloon boot lid. Internal corporate rivalry had compromised the car before a customer ever sat in it. Early models suffered from appalling build quality, water ingress, severe rust, and vague gear shifts. Infamous rumors circulated that if the car was jacked up incorrectly at the side, the body shell would flex so severely that the rear windscreen would pop out. Later versions corrected many of these defects, offering a smooth hydrogas ride and comfortable seating. Over 600,000 were eventually built, but the damage to the brand was irreversible. The Allegro condensed every flaw of its parent company into one visible object: compromised styling, confused corporate management, rushed development, and a habit of fixing defects only after the public had walked away. It stands as the definitive number 1, not because every example failed to run, but because no other car made the tragic decline of a nation's automotive empire quite so undeniably visible. So, what did you think of our choices? You want us to talk about other cars? Feel free to post that in the comment. Also, make sure to subscribe for more content like this.